A woman walks through a crowded room, her presence a quiet storm. Eyes follow, not because she demands it, but because something in her essence pulls them, magnetic, unknowable. Men watch, captivated, yet unable to name the force that draws them. This is no accident. It's the power of the feminine, untamed, rooted in the depths of the psyche, where Carl Jung's archetypes whisper truths about desire, mystery, and the human soul. A woman who cannot be fully understood becomes a mirror for a man's unconscious, reflecting back his hidden longings, his fears, his unclaimed shadows. Her enigma is her strength, a silent rebellion against a world that demands she be predictable, controllable, known. In Jung's psychology, the anima is the feminine within a man's soul, a guide to his deepest emotions, his unacknowledged dreams. She is not a person but a force, a projection of everything he yearns for yet cannot grasp. When a woman embodies this archetype, not through effort but through being, she becomes a living paradox. She is both near and unreachable, present yet elusive. Her mystery stirs the masculine psyche, awakening a primal chase, not of the body but of the soul. Why does this happen? Because the masculine, often trapped in logic and control, craves what it cannot define. A woman who knows her depths, who moves with the rhythm of her own spirit, becomes the anima incarnate. She is the mystery that haunts him. Consider Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who wrote of mastering one's desires to find true freedom. A woman who embraces this wisdom does not chase validation. She does not bend to the expectations of others. Instead, she cultivates an inner stillness, a detachment that radiates power. This is not coldness, but a deliberate choice to value her own soul above external noise. When she withdraws her need for approval, something shifts. The man, accustomed to being pursued, feels the ground quake beneath him. Her indifference is not rejection, but a mirror, forcing him to confront his own neediness, his own unexamined heart. He begins to obsess, not because she is unavailable, but because she is whole. This wholeness, Jung would argue, comes from individuation, the journey to integrate the self, to embrace both light and shadow. A woman who walks this path does not perform femininity, she embodies it. She knows her anger, her joy, her darkness, and she does not hide them. This authenticity is magnetic. It's why a man might sit late at night replaying a fleeting moment, a glance, a word, a silence, unable to let it go. Modern psychology echoes this. Attachment theory shows that secure individuals, those who need no external anchor, are often the most compelling. Their independence signals strength, and strength sparks desire. But what is this mystery men chase? It's not manipulation or games. It's the unspoken truth of a woman who knows her worth. She does not explain herself. She does not justify her choices. She moves through the world with a quiet certainty, her actions aligned with her inner compass. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic, urged us to focus only on what is within our control. For a woman, this means her thoughts, her emotions, her presence. She cannot control a man's feelings, but she can choose how much of herself she reveals. And in that choice lies her power. By holding back, by refusing to be fully known, she becomes a canvas for his projections, a riddle he cannot solve. This riddle is not cruelty, it's a gift. It invites him to look within, to question his own desires, to face his shadow, the parts of himself he denies. Jung taught that the shadow holds our repressed truths, our fears, our unclaimed potential. A woman who embodies mystery forces a man to confront his. He may not understand why he's drawn to her, why her silence lingers in his mind, but the pull is undeniable. It's the pull of the unknown, the eternal feminine that exists beyond reason. So, woman, consider this. What if your power lies not in what you give, but in what you withhold? What if your strength is not in being seen, but in being felt? The feminine, in its deepest essence, is a force of creation, of transformation. When you embrace your mystery, you become a catalyst, stirring the masculine soul to awaken. But what happens when he begins to chase, when his obsession grows? Does he seek to possess you or to understand himself? The answer lies in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. The masculine psyche, restless and searching, finds itself ensnared by a woman who moves like a shadow through his world. She does not cling, nor does she demand. Her presence is a quiet flame flickering just beyond his reach, and in that distance his obsession takes root. Carl Jung spoke of the unconscious as a vast ocean, where desires and fears swim unseen. When a woman embodies the unknowable, she becomes a current in that ocean, pulling a man toward depths he cannot name. Her mystery is not a game but a truth, a reflection of her own journey into the self, where light and darkness dance as one. This dance is what Jung called the integration of the shadow. The shadow is not evil, but the hidden parts of the soul, anger, desire, vulnerability, that society often bids us suppress. A woman who knows her shadow does not shrink from it. She feels the heat of her own rage, the weight of her sorrow, the pulse of her longing, and she honors them all. This inner strength, this refusal to be tamed, radiates a power that unsettles the masculine ego. He is drawn to her not because she is perfect, but because she is real. Her authenticity, raw and unfiltered, becomes a mirror for his own unclaimed truths. He sees in her what he cannot face in himself. Stoic wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius taught, reminds us to focus on what lies within our power. A woman who lives this principle does not waste her energy trying to control a man's heart. Instead, she cultivates her own. She tends to her spirit, her passions, her quiet moments of reflection. This self-sufficiency is magnetic. Modern psychology supports this. Studies on attraction show that men are often most captivated by women who exude emotional independence. A woman who needs nothing from him, who is complete in her own being, becomes a paradox he cannot solve. Her detachment is not coldness, but a sacred boundary, a declaration that her worth does not depend on his gaze. Yet this detachment is precisely what fuels his obsession. When she withdraws, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, she creates a void. That void, Jung would say, is where the anima stirs. The anima, the feminine archetype within a man, is his bridge to the unconscious, to the emotions he has buried. When a woman embodies this archetype, she becomes a guide, leading him toward his own soul. But she does not do this by explaining herself. She does it through silence, through presence, through the unspoken weight of her being. A single glance, heavy with meaning, can linger in his mind for days. A word, carefully chosen, can echo in his dreams. Her mystery is her power, and her power is her truth. Woman, pause and consider. What does it mean to be fully seen, yet never fully known? To let your essence speak louder than your words. The feminine is not a performance, but a force of nature. When you embrace your complexity, your light, your darkness, your contradictions, you become a living archetype. You are the muse, the goddess, the shadow that haunts. But this power comes at a cost. To wield it, you must let go of the need to be understood. You must release the urge to explain, to justify, to be safe. In that release, you find freedom, and in that freedom, you become untouchable. Seneca once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. For a man, the woman he cannot understand becomes a canvas for his imagination. He projects onto her his deepest desires, his oldest wounds. Her mystery invites him to chase, not to possess her, but to confront himself. Yet here lies the danger. What happens when his obsession turns to control? When the chase becomes a need to conquer? The feminine, in its wisdom, knows the answer. It lies in the balance between giving and withholding, between presence and absence. But how does a woman maintain this balance without losing herself? How does she remain a mystery without becoming a ghost? The truth waits in the next breath, in the choices she makes next. The feminine mystery, like a river carving stone, shapes the masculine psyche without force, without clamor. A woman who embodies this mystery does not shout her worth. she simply is. Her presence, a quiet pulse of certainty, stirs something ancient in a man's soul. Carl Jung would call this the work of the anima, the feminine archetype that whispers to a man's unconscious, urging him to face his buried emotions, his unspoken fears. When a woman moves through the world with this power, untamed, unapologetic, she becomes a force that cannot be ignored. Her silence speaks louder than words, her detachment more compelling than pursuit. But this power is not without its tension. To be a mystery is to walk a delicate edge, balancing the gift of allure with the risk of isolation. In the dance of attraction, the masculine often seeks to possess, to define, to conquer. Yet, a woman who cannot be fully known defies this urge. Her refusal to be captured is not rejection, but a deeper invitation, an invitation to self-discovery. Jung taught that the unconscious holds the key to our true selves, and the anima is the guide. When a woman embodies this archetype, she becomes a mirror, reflecting back a man's hidden desires, his unclaimed vulnerabilities. He chases not just her, but the parts of himself he has long denied. Her mystery is a catalyst, sparking a journey he may not even know he's on. But this journey is not hers to control. She can only choose how much of herself to reveal, how much to withhold. Stoic philosophy, as Seneca urged, teaches us to over in our own souls, to find peace in what we can control. For a woman, this means her inner world, her thoughts, her emotions, her truth. She does not need to shape a man's perception of her. She needs only to shape her own. This self-mastery is what makes her magnetic. Modern psychology aligns here. Research on relational dynamics shows that emotional independence signals strength, and strength ignites desire. A woman who does not cling, who does not seek to fill her voids with external validation, becomes a riddle. Her confidence is not loud but quiet, rooted in the knowledge that she is enough. And in that sufficiency, she becomes unforgettable. Woman, consider this. What if your power lies not in being chosen but in choosing yourself? What if the key to his obsession is your refusal to need him? The feminine, in its deepest essence, is a force of creation, not submission. When you embrace your own complexity, your joy, your rage, your mystery, you become a living paradox. You are both the flame and the shadow, the warmth and the distance. This paradox is what draws him in, what keeps him awake at night, replaying a moment he cannot explain. A single word spoken with intention can linger in his mind. A pause, heavy with meaning, can shift his world. Your power is in what you choose to give and what you choose to keep. But there is a shadow to this power, as Jung would remind us. The shadow is not just the parts of ourselves we hide, but the parts we fear to face. For a woman, the shadow might be the fear of being too much, or not enough. It might be the temptation to dim her light, to make herself smaller, to be understood at the cost of her mystery. To wield feminine power is to confront this shadow, to embrace the fullness of who she is without apology. This is individuation, Jung's path to wholeness, where light and dark are woven into one. A woman on this path does not shrink from her own intensity. She leans into it, and in doing so, she becomes a force that reshapes those around her. Yet what happens when the masculine, stirred by her mystery, seeks to unravel her? When his obsession becomes a need to define her, to make her known? The feminine, in its wisdom, knows that true power lies in remaining a question, not an answer. But how does she hold this space without losing her connection to him? How does she remain a mystery while still being human? The answer lies in the delicate art of presence, being fully there, yet never fully revealed. The next step in this dance holds the key, waiting to unfold. The feminine mystery is not a mask, but a truth, a living embodiment of the soul's untamed depths. A woman who carries this essence moves through the world with a quiet power, her presence a riddle that lingers in the masculine heart. Carl Jung's anima, the feminine archetype within a man, is no mere concept. It is the spark of his longing, the echo of emotions he cannot name. When a woman becomes this archetype, not through effort but through authenticity, she stirs a primal force. She is not chasing his approval. She is chasing her own becoming. And in that pursuit, she becomes the one he cannot forget, the one whose absence feels like a wound he cannot explain. This wound, Jung would say, is the work of the shadow, the hidden parts of the psyche that hold both pain and potential. For a man, the woman who cannot be understood becomes a mirror for his shadow. Her mystery forces him to confront what he has buried, his insecurities, his unclaimed desires, his fear of being unworthy. She does not create these feelings, she reveals them. Her power lies in her refusal to be defined, her choice to remain a question rather than an answer. This refusal is not cruelty, but a gift. It invites him to grow, to face himself, to step into the discomfort of his own soul. But growth is rarely gentle, and his obsession often teeters on the edge of control. Stoic wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius taught, calls us to focus on our own actions, to let go of what lies beyond our grasp. A woman who lives this truth does not bend to a man's need to possess her. She does not adjust her light to ease his discomfort. Instead, she holds her ground, rooted in her own worth. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies on attraction show that men are drawn to women who exude self-assurance, not because they are unattainable, but because they are complete. This completeness is what makes her magnetic. She is not a puzzle to be solved, but a universe to be explored. Her depth, her contradictions, her quiet strength, these are the forces that keep him tethered to her, even when she is silent. Woman, pause and ask, what does it mean to be a universe unto yourself? To carry a power so profound that it shifts the air around you. The feminine is not a performance, but a presence, a force that flows from knowing who you are, shadow and all. When you embrace your complexity, you become a living archetype, the anima that haunts his dreams. But this power demands courage. It asks you to release the need to be understood, to let go of the urge to explain yourself. It asks you to stand in your truth, even when it unsettles those who seek to claim you. Your mystery is not a game. It is the essence of your soul, radiant and untouchable. Yet there is a tension in this dance. The masculine, stirred by her mystery, may seek to unravel her, to pin her down like a butterfly under glass. His obsession can become a need to control, to make the unknown known. This is where the feminine must hold her center. She does not fight his desire, nor does she surrender to it. She simply is present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his longing, withholding just enough to preserve her essence. This balance is her art. It is the art of being fully human, yet divinely unknowable. Seneca's words ring true here. We must accept what is not ours to change. She cannot change his heart, but she can choose how she moves through his world. This choice is her power, but it is also her challenge. To remain a mystery is to risk being misunderstood, to risk loneliness in the name of authenticity. Yet it is in this risk that her freedom lies. By choosing herself, she becomes a force that reshapes the masculine soul, not through force but through presence. But what happens when the chase deepens, when his obsession becomes a mirror for her own shadows? Can she hold her mystery without losing her humanity? Can she remain a flame without burning out? The answer lies in the final steps of this dance, where her truth and his longing collide. The feminine soul, radiant and unyielding, moves through the world like a melody half heard, its notes lingering in the masculine heart. A woman who embodies this mystery does not seek to be known, she seeks to be true. In her truth, she becomes the anima, the archetype Carl Jung described as the feminine within a man's psyche, a guide to his deepest emotions, a mirror for his unclaimed self. Her power is not in what she says, but in what she withholds. Her silence, her presence, her quiet refusal to be fully grasped, these are the forces that ignite his obsession. She is not a puzzle to be solved, but a depth to be felt, a mystery that stirs the soul to awaken. This awakening, Jung taught, is the work of individuation, the journey to integrate light and shadow to become whole. A woman on this path does not dim her complexity to ease a man's discomfort. She embraces her contradictions, her strength and her softness, her fire and her calm. This wholeness is what makes her magnetic. Modern psychology affirms this. Studies on attraction reveal that men are drawn to women who radiate self-possession, not because they are distant, but because they are complete. Her independence is not a wall, but a flame, a light that draws him closer, yet burns if he seeks to possess it. Her mystery is her freedom, and her freedom is her power. Stoic philosophy, as Seneca wrote, reminds us to focus on what lies within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our truth. A woman who lives this wisdom does not chase a man's approval. She does not mold herself to fit his expectations. Instead, she cultivates her own soul, tending to its depths with quiet devotion. This self-sufficiency is what makes her untouchable. When she moves through the world with this certainty, she becomes a force that reshapes those around her. A single glance, heavy with intention, can haunt him for days. A moment of silence, pregnant with meaning, can shift his reality. Her power lies in her presence, in the way she chooses to exist, fully, authentically, unapologetically. Woman, consider this. What if your greatest strength is not in being understood, but in being unforgettable? What if your power lies in the spaces you leave empty, the questions you leave unanswered? The feminine is not a performance, but a sacred force, a current that flows from knowing your worth. When you embrace your shadow, your light, your mystery, you become a living archetype. You are the muse, the goddess, the enigma that stirs his soul. But this power demands courage. It asks you to let go of the need to be seen, to release the urge to explain yourself. It asks you to stand in your truth, even when it unsettles those who seek to claim you. Yet there is a delicate balance in this dance. The masculine, captivated by her mystery, may seek to unravel her to make her known. His obsession can become a need to control, to define what defies definition. Here, the feminine must hold her center. She does not fight his desire, nor does she surrender to it. She remains present, yet elusive, giving just enough to kindle his longing, withholding just enough to preserve her essence. This is the art of the feminine, to be fully there, yet never fully revealed. Marcus Aurelius taught that true power lies in mastering oneself, not others. For a woman, this means choosing her own path, even when it leads through shadows. This choice is her liberation. By refusing to be defined, she becomes a catalyst for transformation, not just for herself, but for the masculine soul. His obsession is not about her alone. It is about the parts of himself he cannot face. Her mystery invites him to confront his shadow, to question his desires, to grow. But growth is rarely gentle, and the feminine must navigate this tension with wisdom. She must remain a flame, burning brightly, yet never consumed. The woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses. And in that choice she finds peace. Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below. The woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses.